AI models can help you with a huge range of questions, instantly and in natural language. But what if you ask about something they don't actually know, like your private documents or a company's internal policy, a recent technical update, or a document that's not on the public sources, like the internet? In cases like that, most models guess or just won't answer, and that's the problem. The solution, it's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short, and this is already being used by leading companies worldwide. Let's take a closer look. The term RAG, short for Retrieval-Augmented Generation, often sounds more complex than it really is. At its core, it's just this. You enrich your original prompt with relevant information about your topic before sending it to the AI model. The difference compared to sending a lot of data like whole articles, manuals, or books is that in many cases you might not know in advance which information is relevant, or the relevant information is just too much or in too many sources. That's where retrieval comes in. In this step, a special component searches your own data like documents, internal wikis, knowledge bases, etc., and picks out the most relevant pieces in text chunks fitting to your question. Then, those pieces are injected into the prompt. The LLM receives the original question, augmented with the relevant content, and generates a final, natural language response. That's why it's called retrieval, because the model looks something up; augmented, because your prompt is enriched with outside information; generation, because the answer is still written by the LLM. So, instead of the AI guessing based on what it was trained on, you give it real context and let it do what it's good at. It's like summarizing and turning text into fluent, helpful answers. In other words, RAG doesn't try to make the LLM smarter, it just feeds it better information. Let's look at a real-world example. Imagine you ask an AI, "How many vacation days do I get according to our company's HR policy?" A regular large language model might try to answer, but unless it was trained on your company's internal documents, it simply won't know. It might guess, stay vague, or give a generic response. But in a RAG system, something different happens. The system first searches your company's actual HR documents. It finds the sections that talk about vacation days. Then it adds those relevant chunks into the prompt, so the AI answers based on your real data, not assumptions. The result? You get a response that's accurate, context-aware, and useful because it's grounded in retrieved knowledge, not just the model's training. So what exactly happens behind the scenes when you ask a question in a RAG system? Let's go back to our example. Your company's HR policies, the full documents, have already been uploaded into the system. Now here's the first step. These documents are processed by an embedding model, which converts each chunk of text into a list of numbers, called a vector. Why? Because vectors make it easier to compare the meaning of text. They don't rely on exact keywords. They capture semantic similarity. All of these vectors, representing your internal content, are then stored in a vector database like Weaviate, Pinecone, Face, Chroma, or OpenSearch. So instead of storing plain text, the system stores numbers that reflect the meaning of that text. Now you ask your question, "How many vacation days do I get?" That question is also converted into a vector using an embedding model. Then the system searches the vector database for the chunks that are closest in meaning to your question. Let's say it finds 3 or 4 passages that match best. Those are pulled from the database and added to your original prompt. So the AI doesn't just see your question. It now sees the question itself plus the most relevant content from your own data. The language model, like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, or Gemini, takes all of that and generates the final answer in natural language. That's how RAG works. The model isn't generating blindly nor from its internal data. It's generating based on real context that was retrieved in the background, just in time, and tailored to that specific question. So why are so many companies across all sectors already using RAG? Because in real business environments, answers without context aren't enough. And also, because RAG was one of the first major innovations in applied Gen AI long before the current wave of agent and multi-agent systems. That means it had time to mature, gain real-world adoption, and build a solid base of people who actually understand how to use it. Think about it. Companies sit on massive amounts of internal knowledge, and data became the new oil even before the Gen AI hype, from customer records and product manuals to support docs, HR policies, compliance rules, legal frameworks, or service logs. But here's the thing. Most of that content isn't public. So it's not part of what a language model like GPT was trained on, and frankly, it shouldn't be. And to make things harder, this information is often buried in disconnected systems. PDFs, Confluence pages, SharePoint folders, or internal databases. Without RAG, none of that would be accessible to the AI model. So the model would just say, I don't know. Or worse, make something up. RAG fixes that. It gives the AI access to the knowledge that makes your business unique, and that can give you a real edge over competitors. It helps deliver answers that are accurate, contextual, and based on your actual data. That's why companies use RAG for customer support bots that pull from help articles and manuals, internal assistants that answer employee questions based on real systems and policies, legal and compliance tools that retrieve and interpret rules instantly, or industry-specific tools from insurance to manufacturing. Whether you're improving productivity, reducing error rates, or just saving time, RAG brings the power of AI into your real-world operations. So, do you always need RAG? Not always. If your task doesn't involve internal or constantly changing information and you're working with a large, consistent dataset, then fine-tuning might be an option, but that only makes sense in very specific scenarios. For example, if you're generating legal documents, medical reports, or technical manuals where the structure is fixed, the content is narrow, and consistency is critical. But for most real-world use cases, especially assistants or chatbots that answer different questions every day, RAG is more flexible and efficient. Why? Because RAG doesn't require retraining. It lets the AI retrieve the right context in real time and adapt to new or changing information without high costs and the needing to rebuild the model. That's why most companies today already use RAG in some form, whether it's internal help desks, customer service bots, or intelligent document assistants. When your AI needs to work with your actual business knowledge, RAG is the method that scales. But that doesn't mean it's always easy. Like any system, RAG has its own challenges, especially in enterprise environments. Data quality. If your internal content is messy, noisy, outdated, or inconsistent, RAG will reflect that in its answers. Garbage in, garbage out, just faster. Multimodal data. Most RAG systems work with text, but real-world data often comes as scans, charts, slides, even audio and video. To use those in RAG, you first need to convert them to text using OCR or similar tools. But here, a lot can go wrong. And poor conversions mean poor AI answers. Data governance and access control. Not every employee should see every document, but I've seen engineers struggle to build secure RAG pipelines because the data sources didn't have reliable metadata or access layers in place. It gets messy fast. Evaluation. Only recently have companies started more widely applying proper evaluation frameworks for RAG supported by open source communities and services from cloud providers. That's crucial, not just for accuracy, but for cost control, security, and long-term reliability. So yes, RAG is powerful, and yes, it's already everywhere. But to make it work at scale with real business data and real users, you need to solve more than just the retrieval. You need governance, clean data, smart evaluation, and the right access control. If you get that right, RAG becomes a game changer. If you found this video informative and want to dive deeper into Gen AI, leave a like, share it, and hit subscribe. See you in the next video here on AI Vibes.